Family Guy has long been known for its edgy humor and boundary-pushing content, but there are certain episodes that take things to a whole new level. These aren't just crude jokes or random gags. We're talking about some of the darkest, most disturbing episodes to ever air on primetime television. From tragic deaths to deeply unsettling moments, these episodes delve into themes that'll make even the most hardened fans squirm. Buckle up, because today we're counting down the 20 darkest episodes from Family Guy that prove just how far the show is willing to go to shock and disturb its audience. Let's dive in. In this chilling road to episode, Stewie and Brian head to the North Pole with one mission in mind: to kill Santa Claus. What they discover is a dark, twisted version of the holiday legend. Santa is a broken man, the elves are grotesquely mutated from inbreeding, and the reindeer have become savage monsters. The journey spirals further into madness when Stewie and Brian take over Santa's job, violently assaulting a family in cold blood. Definitely not for the faint of heart. This episode redefines what it means to be dark in Family Guy. Next up, we have Roads to Vegas. A teleportation mishap leads to two versions of Stewie and Brian, one pair finding bad luck and the other thriving in Las Vegas before everything goes horribly wrong. The episode takes a dark turn as one version of Brian becomes suicidal and Stewie faces a death threat from the mafia. The dark, tragic ending sees only one version of each character left standing, leaving a grim taste behind. Let's move on to Coma Guy. When Peter falls into a coma, Lois is forced to make a harrowing decision about whether to pull the plug. Meanwhile, Peter dreams of his deceased friend and even contemplates crossing over to the afterlife. But the real shock comes when Lois is on the verge of letting him go, leaving Peter's fate hanging in the balance in a truly disturbing moment. Coming up next is Quagmire's Quagmire. Quagmire's dark side is explored when he meets Sonia, a woman with a kink for being abusive and controlling. Quagmire ends up on the receiving end of her violence, forcing his friends to intervene. The episode borders on uncomfortable as it makes light of domestic abuse in a way that leaves you feeling uneasy. The next episode in our list is Fresh Air. Peter's bad parenting reaches new lows in Fresh Air when he attempts to marry his son Chris to claim the Pewterschmidt fortune. The episode takes a horrifying turn when Peter kills an innocent child and proposes to his son with his wife's ring, taking familial dysfunction to an unimaginable extreme. Up next, we delve into the 2,000-year-old virgin. In this episode, Jesus Christ is depicted as a sleazy, manipulative figure who tricks men into believing he's a virgin so he can sleep with their wives. This highly offensive take on religion caused major backlash, but is part of Family Guy's fearless approach to tackling taboo subjects. Now, let's talk about Brian Griffin's House of Pain. The Griffin family's treatment of Stewie in this episode reaches disturbing levels. After Meg and Chris injure him, Peter makes Lois unknowingly run over Stewie. Watching a baby endure such violence, even a violent genius like Stewie, is unsettling, even for Family Guy standards. Our next episode is Herbert the Pervert. This episode dives deep into the uncomfortable relationship between Chris and Herbert, where Herbert mistakenly finds Peter attractive and competes for his affection. The focus on Herbert's creepy behavior feels more wrong here, turning what is usually dark humor into something much more difficult to ignore. Next, we'll explore Brian the Closer. Every character in this episode indulges their worst traits, from Brian selling Quagmire a terrible home to Bonnie plotting Joe's death. The darkest part comes when Bonnie buys a house on a cliff, clearly intending to roll Joe off it, showing just how far Family Guy is willing to go with its dark humor. Let's dive into Night of the Hurricane. Brian's bad trip on magic mushrooms turns into one of Family Guy's most disturbing episodes. Stewie tries to guide him through a hallucinatory nightmare full of terrifying monsters and twisted imagery, making this one more about fear and paranoia than the usual humor. The next spot goes to No Meals on Wheels. Peter's treatment of Joe and his paraplegic friends crosses a line in No Meals on Wheels, where Peter bars Joe's friends from his restaurant, triggering a fight that's offensive and mean-spirited. This is one of those episodes where the humor feels less like comedy and more like a slap in the face. Now, we turn to Stewie as Incinte. When Stewie uses Brian's DNA to impregnate himself, the results are disturbingly grotesque hybrid children. The situation becomes darker when Brian and Stewie abandon their deformed children at an animal shelter. It's a grim take on parenting and neglect, wrapped in Family Guy's usual shock humor. Moving on, we have Trading Places choices. In a twisted reversal of roles, Chris and Meg take on the responsibilities of their parents, leading Chris to a breakdown as he becomes overwhelmed with the stress of working and supporting his family. The dark themes of child exploitation and emotional abuse make this one of the show's more unsettling episodes. Coming in next is Death is a Bitch. Peter must step in as the new Death after he accidentally injures the Grim Reaper. In one of the darkest sequences, Peter must choose who to kill during a potentially deadly plane crash. It's a heavy exploration of mortality, executed with Family Guy's trademark irreverence. Up next on our list is Partial Terms of Endearment. Lois is asked to be a surrogate mother, but things take a dark turn when the intended parents die, and Lois must decide whether to keep the baby. This controversial episode, which was banned from airing in the US, tackles abortion in a way that feels tone-deaf and out of place for the show. The next dark tale is Airport 07. The episode features a disturbing cutaway joke involving a prom night dumpster baby, a dark and inappropriate gag that makes light of a serious issue. While Family Guy is known for its over-the-top humor, this particular moment crosses into tasteless territory. Now, it's time to discuss A Shot in the Dark. Inspired by the tragic shooting of Trayvon Martin, Peter accidentally shoots Cleveland Jr. while patrolling his neighborhood. The episode attempts to comment on the justice system, but does so in a manner that feels more like a reckless joke than a meaningful social commentary. Let's highlight Road to Germany next. Stewie and Brian's time-traveling misadventure during World War II takes an incredibly dark turn when they accidentally land in 1939 Poland. The episode uses Holocaust imagery for laughs, which many found in poor taste, making it one of the show's most controversial moments. Following that is Screams of Silence, the story of Brenda Q. In this episode, Quagmire's sister suffers physical and emotional abuse at the hands of her fiancé. The episode doesn't know how to handle its dark themes, presenting domestic violence in a way that feels both trivializing and uncomfortable. Finally, let's take a look at Life of Brian. The shocking death of Brian Griffin, one of the show's most beloved characters, left fans reeling. This emotionally charged episode, where Brian dies in a car accident, breaks from the show's usual tone, leaving an emotional void that fans were reluctant to accept. And there you have it, the 20 darkest episodes of Family Guy that left fans questioning just how far the show is willing to go. From horrific death scenes to deeply unsettling subject matter, these episodes push the boundaries of dark humor in ways that are hard to forget. What do you think? Did we miss any? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into Family Guy and beyond. Until next time, stay edgy, but not that edgy.